Hello, I'm Robert Emmett Hernan, head of Blue Stack Productions Inc., the publisher of Irish Environment, an online resource for environmental matters on the island of Ireland. We're here today for another in our series of conversations on environmental matters, and today I'm very pleased to welcome Geoff Nuttall from the WWF Northern Ireland. Geoff, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Geoff, I wonder if you could tell the audience, many of whom may know WWF worldwide, but what is WWF and what does it do in Northern Ireland?
Okay, we're part of WWF UK in Northern Ireland, and we have an office of 5 people working on a number of environmental issues. Our 4 key priorities are marine protection, freshwater protection, climate and energy, and promoting sustainable lifestyles. And what we try and focus on is developing policy solutions and also trying to develop good practice solutions through practical projects on the ground.
And what are your I know that WWF Northern Ireland has a huge number of projects that it's involved with. And what would your priorities be over the next couple of years in terms of those projects?
Yes, well, certainly within those 4 areas. On the marine side, we're very much engaged in a campaign for a Northern Ireland Marine Bill and Marine Act to ensure sustainable management of our seas. But we're also very interested in the management of seas in Europe generally, and particularly in our context, how seas are managed in Northern Ireland and the Republic, and between Britain and Ireland. So we are also looking at developing a European project which will look at best practice in European cross-border management of the seas.
What does the Marine Bill do, or what would it do for the seas in Northern Ireland?
Okay, there's a number of key elements to it that we think are necessary for sustainable marine management. It would develop a system of marine protected areas to protect those parts which need protection. At the moment, less than 4% of our seas have any kind of protection at all, and yet 50% or so of our wildlife is in the sea, so it really is something that needs to be more developed in policy. We also need a marine spatial planning system to really reconcile the different pressures and the growing pressures there are on the marine environment, from things which vary from fishing to growing marine renewables development, and also things like aggregates extraction. So we need a system that is a kind of a one-stop shop for that, and we also think that to deliver that we need a single marine management organisation which cuts across the current situation of dividing these things across a number of departments. So we are hoping that a marine bill will be coming forward shortly that will address some of those key things.
Is there a marine bill in the UK and Britain?
There's the UK marine bill. There's also a Scottish marine
but just not in Northern Ireland.
We are also in the process of developing our own draft marine bill here.
Okay.
I think at European level, the thing which is coming on stream for all European countries, European Union countries, is the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. And whilst it's not exactly the same as the marine bills we're talking about in the UK, it will have a lot of the same sort of requirements to look at how you are managing the seas for what is called good environmental status. So it's very much about looking at the ecosystems in the seas which don't respect borders, and finding plans and mechanisms to ensure that we are managing those in a healthy way.
And now, besides the marine issues, what are the priorities?
The other areas we're looking at under climate and energy, one of the key things we're interested in is evolving energy policy, not just in Northern Ireland but on the island of Ireland. We're actually commissioning a report looking at scenarios for energy production by 2030 on the island of Ireland, and what the capacity might be to meet at least meet our own energy needs from renewables, and perhaps also generate surpluses of renewable energy. That's a project that's underway at the moment. And on the sustainable lifestyles strand of our work, we're certainly working with government to encourage more rigorous sustainable development policies in government, but also I think trying to encourage good examples of sustainable procurement. So for instance, looking at things like the procurement of wood products. We have a campaign running actually currently on encouraging local authorities to buy wood from sustainable sources. We are also working with others to develop good examples of sustainable living in new developments. We're hoping that in the future we may be able to play a part in developing a new development at a place called Macramorn near Larne, which would be based on a number of sustainability principles, looking at all of the resources that are used within that community, how transport is organised, how food is organised, into what we would call a one planet society.
Now, Geoff, one of the things you are deeply involved with too is climate change issues. But to get to that issue, let's go back to a survey that your organization did several years ago on attitudes within Northern Ireland. And what if you could tell the audience what the kind of general results were from that survey, which is interesting.
Yes, absolutely. This was a study that we produced in 2007, and we were looking at finding out what public attitudes were to climate change. And it actually followed a survey that had been done in the UK before. And what it found was that 87% of the population in Northern Ireland were concerned about climate change, and also that quite high proportions of people were willing and were acting in their own lives to reduce their carbon footprint and their impact on the issue. And I think it was certainly, from our point of view, encouraging that there was a strong understanding of the importance of climate change as an issue, and a willingness to act.
I saw too that there was, what was it, like 61% out of that 87, 61% strongly agreed with the statement that it was human activities are damaging the planet. And that was in comparison to 33% back in 2005, which was a huge change.
I think we've seen to some extent we've seen a broader increase in understanding and concern about climate change. But I think it shows that in Northern Ireland, and in fact when we did the survey, the percentage was higher in Northern Ireland than it had been in the rest of the UK. So it shows that we're by no means asleep when it comes to the issue of climate change. I think people do see it as an issue. I think people do want to act, and I think they are looking for the opportunity to be able to make the choices they want to make as well. People can make changes in their own lives, but some changes are about infrastructure or about commercial or purchasing choices, and I think people are looking for those things, and something that WWF is trying to encourage as well.
Now, one of the interesting and maybe slightly discouraging results of that survey was that the survey found that younger people were less engaged with the issue of climate change than older people. Were you surprised by that?
Yes, I think we were concerned, obviously, because it's the next generation coming through. I think we would also say, though, that the people that are engaged in environmental issues aren't necessarily all young people. Very often they are actually older people as well. So to some extent we weren't surprised by that. I think we also were unsure as to whether if you got an even younger population of very young children for whom these issues have been ingrained into the curriculum, then those people, when they become teenagers, may have a stronger understanding. It's difficult. I think the sort of younger age group, I think you're sort of talking about the 15 to 25-year-old group, are difficult to engage on any issue. And it is very much about changing your lifestyle, and I think in that age when people are sort of finding their feet as young adults as well, it's very different from maybe when people are a little bit older and they perhaps have children of their own, and they are thinking more to the future and the consequences. So I think that all of those play a part.